Dzień dobry.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. These are going to be like two presentations combined. First, I will discuss my aspects, and then Aldona Zdrodowska will build on my presentation, also referring to the EU Kids Online survey. We will present few aspects as we are still, the works on the survey are ongoing, but please bear in mind the title of the presentation. What is the important in the aspects of upbringing in the digital era? I will give you some conclusions, an in-depth conclusion. I will discuss broadly, I will try actually to answer the question, and so what? Okay, I've seen the results, and what can I do about it? Do we need these results at all? At the same time, you will see whether these results are going to be surprising or not. You may say, okay, the last big survey was done like a decade ago, so whether we have something new or not, well, I'd say it depends. Sometimes we can expect things if we are the experts in the given area, and sometimes even the experts can be surprised. Briefly about surveys, not everyone needs to know it, but in fact, this was the network of scientists that started to cooperate 12 years ago. We wanted to collect all the previous surveys results and to be able to learn a bit more in the years 2006, 2009, and then other countries joined us, and then we had 25,000 respondents in the big survey that actually covered respondents, including kids and children in 24 countries. We have Lucyna Kirwil, Madam Wójcik, Aldona Zdrodowska, who is still doing this, running this research. This service, this research is actually subsidized by individual countries. We also get some funds for that from the university in Krakow. So what is very special and specific about this survey? You see the scale here. Okay, we can check and verify positive and negative aspects of kids' presence online, what they do online. You see the symbols, bad and good stuff. So we actually check the neutral and positive side of the internet, what young people can get in terms of positive aspects, and what can they get in terms of negative aspects. Of course, when you see the devil, probably there will be more of this devil sides, because we know more about the bad things that young kids do online and the outcomes of it. Whereas in our service, we were interested in both sides, good and bad, and results that I'm going to present today will be balanced between the positive or neutral and the bad negative aspects. We have a very good sample. Look, we are all experts in this room. It is really worth to check, to verify your sample. Everyone says, okay, it's great to have a large sample. If you survey like 20,000 people, that's great. No, not always. Sometimes if you have 1,500 respondents, it's better than, but it's well-selected group. It's going to be better, more appropriate than the group of 22,000. So we actually selected a good sample based on certain properties like the size of the locations, schools, etc., etc. So we were trying to do our best to get the best possible results to be translated into a given population, so that you may say this goes for the actually whole population, and it is important. This is not only covering the sample, it is covering, it's representative for the whole population. So we covered with a survey 9 to 17 years old, which is another positive thing in the survey. We were trying to capture the whole group. Methodology, we have the coordinating group developing tools, discussing tools. We are explaining the tools. They have to be translated properly in all languages. And what we get such an image, a picture in a given moment, and the image that covers a bigger period, longer period of time. Offline context, another thing of the survey, another attribute of this survey. So we are also checking what young children do when they are offline, how they feel at school, whether they are victims of violence and bullying. So in this survey, actually, we can ask about this, we can ask these questions both, referring to the presence online and offline, because sometimes you have survey that is only checking what kids do online, so you just take a small piece of the cake, whereas we cover the whole cake. We cover offline, online, and then this makes the results to be comparable with other countries. But we have some limitations, as always. You know, on the blue sky you can find some clouds, and here we have some clouds as well. So what don't we capture in the survey? We cover many aspects, negative and positive, as I said before. Therefore, you cannot go in depth. So we know a lot, but about many things. So we get a relatively large picture, but we do not know much about details. And this is always a problem of such a survey, because the questionnaire is long anyway, and if you want to get into details, then we will suffer some problems with the quality of data. So that's our first limitation. The second one, we know that in a qualitative survey, you test what you plan to test. So what is the risk? There are some things that you don't cover. And for sure, there are things that we didn't cover. Even now, what is missing here, I'm not going to disclose it. I will keep it my secret. But these type of surveys always have some limitations. But they have more positives than negatives or limitations. So, what we research, we have risks and opportunities, devil and angel. We have protective factors, factors that actually push you to do positive things. And there are some risk factors, factors that push young people to do bad things online. We often underline the family and school context quite strongly. So is it good? Yes, because if we are actually to change the online behaviors, we have to compare what are the behaviors in context of school and family. So this is for us also important information to build the knowledge on. Of course, we are living in changing environment. 10 years ago, we had the first version of the survey. Some aspects, of course, repeat, like cyberbullying. It was 10 years ago. It is still existing now. Another element of the problematic use of internet existed 10 years ago. They are still they are remaining. The hate speech, that's new. Witnesses, that's new actually aspect of the survey. You have witness, you ask actually whether they respond, react, whether they take sides of the offenders or the victim. So basically, this is one of the most important factors of the social control and response to what's happening. I know that in online people look for health-related aspects. We did not introduce this model in our survey, but basically this module is added. There were some offline modules also added. But let's move on to the results. 1.3 young people, more or less. It can change still. We are still thinking what kind of observations should be excluded from the survey. But basically, in the survey, we had young people and parents. So if you combine these databases, which we work on actually, then we will be able actually to bring together the family context and young people context. That's also very important to see whether they overlap or not. So my friend Aldona will tell you about the model of parents in a moment. But before that, let me actually discuss our survey a bit more. So first of all, let me show you how people get access to internet. Smartphone, 85%. Basically using smartphones almost Every day, only every 20th respondent says that they don't use smartphones. You see, laptop or the desktop computer access is actually very limiting now. It's only 40% that basically is using laptops or desktops, desktop computers. So this landscape is changing a lot. It is. We used to say, put your desktop computer, PC, personal computer, actually, when people in the place where everyone can observe kids. This is no longer valid. Actually, it doesn't make sense anymore because basically not many people use these PCs. So it doesn't help if it's actually placed in the visible place. The PlayStations. Also, over 40% of young people don't use it anymore. Basically, toys that have access to internet, connected with internet, also not very popular. So basically, smartphones. So what are the results? How can we actually conclude on that? The old times are gone, actually. This is the past, and they will never come back. We have to actually check what young people have in their pockets and how to control it. This survey is actually underlying such message. Mobility and all its consequences. Let me name these consequences. For instance, being online is something totally different. In the past, it was just going away from the world and just being present in virtual world. Now I ask you a question. If I'm running with a smartphone or something, some device that track my jogging exercise, what am I doing? Am I jogging or am I surfing online? Because it is actually being online, but in a different way. So if you are now in online mode, you have your mobiles on mute mode, and when the message comes, you still will actually know it. You'll check the message, right? So you are online. So the question that is asked in the following way: how many hours per day you stay online? It's a stupid question. It's a silly question because today being online is something totally different than being actually working in front of the screen for 5 hours. Whereas, the questions asked in the service do not differentiate it at all. So there is no one way of being, not a single way of being online. If you iron your stuff and then you watch TV, or if you watch on YouTube some video clips, that's also being online. So basically, there is no single online behavior anymore. And that's why this is because of the different type of mobility today. 90% of people already have smartphones, even though they come from poor families, they still have smartphones. In the past, there were these disparities, and some people had, some did not have smartphones. Now it is not valid anymore. Actually, almost everyone has smartphone today. So if they have these devices, this statement, bring your own device, is getting more and more important while working with young people. So actually, we have to equip the educational institutions in devices. For sure, we need actually. Do we have to actually invest public money in equipment, in devices, or maybe we actually should invest in people who create the right conditions to work on the equipment? I believe the second actually investment would be more valid, more valuable. So basically, the problem, the question is what young people do with mobile phones. The disparities actually now stem from the fact what you can do on your mobile phone and not whether you have a mobile phone or not. So what kids do online? And let me start with the most popular behaviors, and you look for the logic. And I actually found it, but you can find your logic here. So almost over 80% of young kids say, I was watching video clips, I was communicating with family and friends, and I listened music online. So new media, old ways, I would say. Basically, on top of communication, because let's say traditional media were less communicative. So I was texting, I was on the social portal, I was playing games online, I was using actually the mobile phones to buy something, I was searching information, I was actually doing my homework, I was reading reading news. So basically, such banal things do not. So that was like 30-40%. I was watching video, movies, TVs. I was commenting on the on what my family or friends did online. I was actually helping someone using internet. I was playing online. I played with other people actually online. You see, this group of interests. Only 3 out of 10. Then I was taking pictures, I was looking on the local information, I was looking for the information on health, every 5th person, you see. I created something, I developed something using applications, so technically I had to know how to do it, so every 5th person. And then 5 to 12% said that they discussed social political problems, so they were trying to sell things, stuff online. So it was, so what is the result? What is the outcome of it?
Rzadziej to robią rzeczy, które wymagają technicznie bardziej zaawansowanych rozwiązań, ale też prymitywne, proste rzeczy.
Many people do this primitive, easy stuff, and the advanced, technologically advanced stuff is actually used by a very narrow group of respondents. So, do we need a media education? Of course, we have to show people that we, using internet, could do something for the sake of the others. But first, you have to convince people that it's worth doing. And if you are going actually to undertake some social initiatives, then it is not enough to go for the media education, that internet will do it for us. It doesn't work that simply. Of course, we have to broaden the perspective. You see, we have the association, there is a statement of the association that we cooperate with, that younger run faster, but older know they way better. This is quite an interesting statement, and let me say that this shows how much young people cannot. When I hear these slogans that young people can teach us something, I can't really hear that anymore, because the king is naked and this is proven actually when you see the survey results. These internet skills are very limited among young people, and let me say the following. The internet has a great potential, but this potential is not used. Or there must be, a lot must be done actually to use the positive sides and this potential of internet in a social way, because internet does not work for it. School, 70% of schools have some rules and principles on the mobile phones, and 30% of schools have no rules, actually. 1/3 of the respondents said that the teachers do not tell us actually how to use internet safely. 45% said that never ever any teacher showed them how to use or search for information online, or how to gain knowledge from internet. So that's quite interesting, because you are experts on these topics, and you think everyone does it, yes? And then you ask young people on this representative sample, and then you get such surprising results. So maybe, in fact, we do things, we teach young people how to learn internet, but then young people don't know that they are taught. Maybe they are not aware. So we have to take this two directions street, and we have to. This is like the bi-directional journey. We have to show people where is the positive direction, and what we can do actually in internet. We are not, unfortunately, we are not attracting the positive young people to the attractive sides of the internet. It's 12% of respondents that said they don't feel safe on the internet, and this is a lot. This is a big group of people. It's not the majority actually of people, but it's a lot. 1/4 of respondents said we were discussing with parents things that made us worried. And well, I selected here one thing. This is new, the hate speech. When we talk about, well, when you check last year only, 40% of respondents said, I actually encountered content that certain groups are offended, like disabled people, third people, or whatsoever. So it's actually every ninth person experienced this kind of hate speech on the internet because of some property attributes they have. So it's a minority, but it's still a lot. 7% say they were offenders, they were perpetrators.
And you always say young people can do anything. They're smart and capable. But actually, in such studies, what do you typically do? What happens in such studies? Usually, you pretend to have higher competencies. You overestimate your competencies compared to what you have. So if several percent say, I can't change privacy settings, more than 10%. They seemingly can do anything, and they are so capable. Think about several percent say, I can't change privacy settings, when you normally overestimate your competences, but still they admit. Or when they say, well, 7% say that over the last year, often or very often tried to cut down on their internet time. It's not an addiction, but it could be a problematic issue. So, you know, the scale is not so great. But anyway, what else? We need to have a diagnosis, sort of black and white, good and bad things. We need that. But what we need more is we need to heed the conclusions rather than, hey, now we know it, we know what's bad, what's good. We have to draw conclusions. And you can't deal with these issues by educating them through the media. We have to do other things to make them sort of pro-social or creative and so on outside of the internet. You cannot teach them critical thinking just about the internet, and then they wouldn't have no critical thinking outside of the internet. It doesn't make sense. We shouldn't reduce things to the online world. We should attract them to other things and other activities also outside of what they do online. But I hope that when you see our report, when you read it, when we've published it, that you draw conclusions, because we have to think what we're working with, what we're working on. We shouldn't be working on our vision of what young people are and how they behave online. We shouldn't be working on our assumptions of what they are or who they are. I've had that, the same, like I was thinking something, I was assuming something, and then I did a study, and it turned out that all my assumptions were wrong. So let's work on some real issues. So the second part will be about parents. Thank you so much. This is it for me. And then when you add that to what you've just heard, you will have a fuller picture.